Como le digo,
¿Qué sentido usted
como le digo, antes nosotros teníamos miedo. Hace 25 años nosotros teníamos miedo porque nos quería como llevar, ¿no? Se venía hacia nosotros y nosotros teníamos miedo, demasiado miedo. Pero ahorita normal. ¿Por qué? Porque no nos hace nada. Lo vemos, es normal. Ajá. No sentimos miedo, no sentimos nada porque no se nos acerca. Siempre están hacia arriba, se dejan ver. O sea, ya es una zona que ya uno siente confianza, ¿no? Porque no nos van a hacer nada. Pero antes sí teníamos miedo, ahora no, tranquilos, todo tranquilo.
Welcome, Spiritual Mag. And this is a a special spiritual update for May 2026. Well, the balance is kind of shifting here. The consciousness on the planet is adjusting, and I think everybody can kind of feel it. So now is the time for me to share some historic facts that I participated in and experienced. It doesn't mean I understand it all, okay? But I do need to share it, okay? Um, so, well, today on the news, the ministers and preachers are talking about how they were invited to meetings with agents, no, not agents, but other interested Christians, and were concerned about um, devils and a lot of different things that were frightening. And for some people, that's what it takes to, wake up. For most people at this point in time, they kind of see the light, if you know what I mean. You know, good decisions make for a good life. Loving behaviors make for loving companionship. So it's May 2026. We're supposedly teetering on the President Trump saying UFOs are real and we have evidence and we have bodies. And at the same time, the Pope, a gentleman from Chicago, the United States, is taking the dogma that the Catholic Church has been entrenched in uh, and removing dead dogma. I think that's the right way to say it. So you can kind of picture him, Robert Prevost, Pope Pope Leo in white, going into the dark and removing false information, misused information, evil intentions from the church. You know, this historic chain of events. So at the same time, you can kind of picture like a UFO shining light down on the people or on the earth. So there's a little bit of a blend there. There's a little bit of a blend there. But what's that got to do with me and what I'm talking about? Well, historically, 2017, I was in Cusco, Peru, getting ready to go on a tour bus to get on the train to go, no, to go up the hill from the hotel there in Cusco to Machu Picchu. Nice Mercedes bus. And we had about just almost a half hour to kill. This is before sunrise. And so my wife said she thought her home where she grew up as a young girl was one block over. So she thought we'd go around the block and see if her home was there. So okay, so it's cold. We've got down jackets on, and we walk up the block. And these are cobblestones, you can picture it. Cusco's these big stone, everything's stone. And we walk over to the right one block, and now we're coming back down the other side of the block. And it's dark. There's no street lights, it's dark. About halfway down on the left, there's a porch, and the light is on in the patio. Now, this porch doesn't have a roof, but there's a light there. And so we're walking down in the dark, and we could see this light on the left. So just before we stop, and I'm thinking maybe I want to take a picture or something because it's kind of a cool picture, this light in the dark in these old places. And the lady sweeping, she stops and she looks over at me and Blanca, my wife, and says, "Are you Sam?" I go, "Yeah." So I started laughing, and Blanca's like, "Oh, that's funny." So she spins around and takes off. Now, this lady's about 4 feet tall with a 5 foot broom. This is the way it is over there. So she spins around and takes off. After a minute, another guy comes shooting out, and he's all excited. He's putting on a sports jacket, and whatever. It's his sports jacket. And he comes out and he goes, "Are you Sam?" I go, "Yeah." He gets all excited. He spins around and he takes off. He goes back to back hallway, takes off. Then a tall guy comes out. And he's walking, tall gentleman, black jacket. He goes, "Are you Sam?" I go, "Yeah." I'm like, "What's going on?" So he says, "We got to say a prayer." I go, "Okay." So we go in, we stand in the patio. There's the tall guy, there's me, and then there's the guy with the sports jacket, the sword guy with the sports jacket. And we say a prayer. He's speaking Spanish. I'm speaking English. I'm doing a Gnostic Christian prayer. And I think he's praying to Mother God. This is my understanding. That's the feeling I got. So I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of like trusting these people, but it's too strange to figure out what's going on. But at this point, I need a toilet. I need to, go number one. So I said, "Is it okay if I use your bathroom?" He goes, "Sure." So I go and use the bathroom. Okay, gotta go by. So we take off. All right, go down the street, come around, get in a Mercedes bus, go up to Machu Picchu. Okay, so we come back. And it was about 9 o'clock at night. It's dark. There's the guy in the sports jacket. He's giving me an award for being the Mr. Whatever. I don't know. Okay. Next thing I know, he wants me to go to a spiritual event in Trujillo because they had a flood. And this is like the basic place for the Jesuits. So I said, "Okay, well, we went." And I was there in 2017, basically on invitation of people that I assume were Jesuits. And I did a spiritual event in the Municipalidad. It was very, very interesting. Now, uh, the gentleman in charge of the Jesuits uh, was in Trujillo, and he was Robert Prevost. This is the same gentleman who is now the Pope. Okay. He's right now, he's the Pope. So he's the sovereign of Vatican City, Pope Leo the 14th. He was the Cardinal Robert Prevost. So I'm going right into the heart and soul of the ancient historic group of Jesuits who migrated to the area of South America where people were zoned in on the stars big time. and visitors from the stars historically were monitored and interacted with. You've got like the Nazca lines, that kind of stuff, these skulls with elongated heads. So the Jesuits came to Peru to, they were scholars, they were scientists, they were investigators to learn the information about the stars because the people in the desert here, the stars they were zoned into it like really well. Okay. So I go to Trujillo at the request of a recognized journalist, Guillermo Gillespie. Okay, he's the little guy in the sports coat. And we, I'm invited. I know I don't initiate any of this. Zero. And I'm invited to do a spiritual event for healing in the Municipalidad. So I get Jarrett, my cameraman, producer at the time, and my lovely wife Blanca. We hop on the plane, we fly into Trujillo. Okay, big deal. I'm completely lost on the time, but that's okay. That's how it goes. So I do an event. Okay. I know I met one Jesuit who was a psychologist because he was introduced to me as a psychologist. And he was hanging out with a bunch of other guys dressed all in the same outfit, the black. Oh. So the next day, so that was on March 24th, 2017, to March 25th, 2017, Guillermo and I went to a spot and called in an orb from Orion. Okay, check that out. That is so heavy. Okay, now that's in 2017. Now, back in 2017, Robert was still the cardinal and in charge of the Jesuits here. This whole area of Peru is in South America has historically been, a contact spot for long-term connections to our space brothers and sisters. So now he's the Pope. Okay. Now I do the ceremony at the Municipalidad Town Square on March 24th, 2017. March 24th, 2017, March 25th, 2017, Guillermo and I call in this orb from Orion. Okay, that's big blast of loving energy. Okay, like I don't have words to explain it, but it's like I don't know. So Robert Prevost was here. Okay, he might have been in a nearby situation, but I'm pretty sh I would bet dollars to donuts he knew what was going on, or was involved in it in some way, or authorized it in some way, because it was not a minor detail. So now, so then we leave and go back to Lima, and then the big news is the Pope is going to fly into Lima and then fly into Trujillo. And that was Pope Francis. Okay. So Pope Francis flies into Trujillo, does a 1 day thingy. And what he did was, it was at 1645 time, a Marian ceremony. That's like a spiritual offering to the female aspect of divinity. Okay. I happen to be a zealot for the female aspect of divinity. I feel very close to the female aspect of divinity. Okay, so You find out where I am here. Sorry, lost my spot. Okay, so now 2017, that's a long time ago. All this happened 2017 is a long time ago. So trying to put this all together, and I'm leaving out a whole bunch. Oh, 3 or 4 chapters. So 2017, and then Pope Francis comes, and then Leo, Robert becomes Pope Leo. And then at the same time, a person by the name of Elena Danan walks into my consciousness. And I just feel in my bones, wow, thank goodness this person's here. Now, everyone has a limit to what they know and understand. Everyone. And generalizations are always incorrect, but as a general rule, everyone has a limit to what they understand. And almost all incarnates have some level of ego, usually. So the goal is to elevate consciousness, and love is always the answer. And that makes more sense when you understand that you can judge someone's actions. You can't judge their soul. Their soul is a spark of divinity. They, you, all of us are sparks of divinity. hmm Okay, I know you probably don't believe that. It doesn't make any sense. But that's how it works out when you incarnate. Before you incarnated, you knew you were a part of divinity. But in the Earth school, your lessons don't come with answers. You have to learn your own answers to the problems that you charted. Questions about compassion, questions about patience, so that when you increase your compassion and when you increase your patience, and when you increase your understanding of knowing you can only judge the actions, you can't judge the intentions because you are a spark of the divine. Okay, you are actually a piece of God, gods and goddesses. So when you pass on, the amount of love you make is the amount of love you like to tolerate and are comfortable with on the other side for a long time. I repeat, the amount of love you gave and made and felt and received. That amount is the amount that you're going to be capable of hanging out in and being comfortable on the other side when you pass on. See, right now, the truth is you'll never be more dead than you are right now. Okay, you feel like I'm alive. Well, it's because you're kind of in the dark and you're learning all these lessons, but you will pass on eventually. And when you pass on, you find out you don't die, you just leave your body. It's your willpower, your ability to focus, your unconditional love. Okay, now, okay. When you go from someplace to someplace else and you're in a physical body, you got to take an airplane, a car, a bicycle, a train, surfboard, skates, I don't know. You got to take something to bring your body. But when you're not in your body, when your consciousness that right now is between your ears, when it's gone, it's because your body's no longer functions, that consciousness goes where it's most comfortable. Okay? So if you're an individual who's confused and angry and evil and did a lot of stuff that's not nice and you die, you find out, oh God, I didn't die. Oh yeah, I really screwed that up. And then you kind of hang out on Earth like a ghost or something. Okay? So when you move up in consciousness, you appreciate that because you are a spark of the divine, you're an eternal being. Hello, you're going to continue. All right, you will continue. So you don't really die. Okay, you just move on. So when that happens, you don't need a physical body, and then you're able to, at some level, participate with higher consciousness beings, beings that are more unconditional loving than you, can tolerate higher frequencies. Okay? They're not in physical bodies. So most likely, these things that are discs that are flying around, they don't, they might have robots in them, but any disc that's going to fly around anywhere else is going to get shot down by somebody. It's not going to be pretty. Now, these orbs that are out there, those aren't discs. And when we called in the orb from Orion, ow, wasn't a disc. So the planet itself is elevating consciousness. The planet itself is elevating consciousness. There are people that are not going to elevate consciousness. There are people that are going to stay stagnant and drag down. Okay? Now, they don't last forever. People are not going to last forever in physical bodies. And so when they pass on, who knows? You don't know what the story was with them. Maybe they were people that loved you that charted out to do negative stuff just so that you could learn patience. And you owe a big debt to them. That's not, don't, we wouldn't be surprised at all. Okay. People that love you, you incarnate together, cause problems for each other. Okay. And that helps each other grow. That's the way it really does work. So the Pope is getting a lot of people that participated in religion, sometimes for unethical reasons, and may have exhibited unethical behaviors, are being separated out. Okay. Pope's doing that. Okay. Be difficult for someone from Rome to do that. Someone from Chicago to do that could do that. Okay. And so that's what Robert is doing. He's cleaning house. Okay. And the Vatican's more than a church. The Vatican is the deep state and the Vatican Bank. And so Robert's doing the real thing. And that's simultaneously while Hollywood got whacked. See, Hollywood got busted, the whole Epstein thing, right? And Trump's over there. He's just, right? So the struggle is occurring. And what's happening is the 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 cream is separating. Okay. So the barking dogs are going to be left behind as those who can exhibit unconditional love for themselves and others and try to best only judge actions and not judge others because we are all sparks of the divine. That's what's going on right now. And this the term is disclosure, like something is going to come out of a craft and, suddenly, whatever's going to happen. That's not the way it is. You're gonna pass on no matter what, loved one. You're gonna pass on no matter what. You're gonna pass on no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you're an atheist, a Buddhist, a Catholic, believe monkeys are gods, or whatever the hell you believe. Belief begins where knowledge ends. Everybody's got some beliefs, knowledge and beliefs are different. So beliefs begin where knowledge ends. So for everybody to have certain beliefs, whatever the hell they are, when you get to heaven, nobody's going to ask you what in the hell you believed. Nobody's going to ask you, were you a Baptist? Were you an agnostic? Or were you? They're not going to ask that. They're only going to ask, who did you love and how did you love them? That's all they're going to ask. And telepathically, you're each going to pick up on that. You'll have the same feelings they had, and it's really, really nice. Okay, let's see. Anything else? All right. You and all your loved ones are always in my prayers.